The stars twinkled silently in the vast emptiness of space as the Vraxian scout ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of an unremarkable solar system. Captain Droll, a seasoned officer with blue-gray skin and 4 eyes set in a diamond pattern, studied the holographic display with mild curiosity. "Another primitive system," he muttered. "Let's catalog it and move on." His second-in-command, Officer Trell, pointed to an unusual reading. "Captain, look at the third planet. There are artificial signals coming from it." Droll's upper eyes narrowed. The Vraxian hegemony had ruled this section of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. They had settled 17 star systems and considered themselves the only true civilized species in existence. Finding another spacefaring race was unexpected. "Send a probe," Droll ordered. "Let's see what we're dealing with." The probe entered Earth's orbit 12 hours later. What it sent back changed everything. The blue planet buzzed with activity, cities covering vast areas, orbital stations, lunar bases, and early settlements on the fourth planet. The inhabitants called themselves humans. "They've only had spaceflight for 200 years, Trell said, reviewing the data. "But their progress is concerning." Droll immediately contacted the hegemony's central command. Within days, a full battle fleet of 15 massive warships arrived. High Commander Grek, the fleet's leader, wasted no time. "This is how we have always done it," Grek told the gathered officers. "We show overwhelming force, demand surrender, and absorb their technology and resources. The Vraxian way has worked perfectly for millennia." No one questioned this approach. The Vraxians had built their empire on the belief that they were destined to rule. Their purple-hulled ships, each 5 kilometers long, moved into Earth orbit in a display of power meant to terrify. On Earth, the situation quickly became clear. Strange ships had appeared without warning, positioning themselves over major cities. Global defense forces went on high alert, but their weapons seemed pathetically small compared to the alien vessels. "We are the Vraxian hegemony," came the message, broadcast in all Earth languages after the aliens quickly decoded human communication systems. "Your planet is now part of our empire. You have 1 month to surrender all military assets and prepare for integration. Resistance is pointless." In the United Nations Emergency Council, world leaders gathered to face this unprecedented threat. General Pike, a stern woman with short gray hair and a face hardened by years of military service, presented the initial assessment. "Their technology is beyond anything we have," she said grimly. "Our best weapons might damage their smallest ships, but the large ones, we have nothing that can touch them." President Reyes of the United Americas stood up. "What are our options? Fight and likely lose, or surrender and definitely lose," Pike answered honestly. Dr. Marcus, head of the newly formed Alien Technology Division, raised his hand. "There's something strange about their communication methods. They're advanced, yes, but in ways that seem odd, like they followed a completely different technological path than humanity." "Explain," Rice demanded. "It's like they developed certain areas to incredible heights while ignoring others completely," Marcus said. "I need more time to study the data, but I think there might be weaknesses we can exploit." The council gave him 48 hours. Outside, people around the world looked up at the massive ships blocking the sun. Some prayed, others prepared for the worst. In labs and military bases, scientists and soldiers worked frantically, searching for any way to resist the seemingly unbeatable invaders. Humanity had 1 month to find an answer or face extinction. The world changed overnight. Streets that once bustled with people now lay nearly empty. Those who ventured outside couldn't help looking up at the massive purple ships hanging in the sky like dark moons. Dr. Marcus hadn't slept in 3 days. Empty coffee cups littered his lab at the Global Defense Headquarters. Screens covered every wall, displaying the strange signals coming from the Vraxian fleet. "I'm missing something," he muttered, rubbing his tired eyes. His assistant, Lynn, pointed to one of the screens. "Look at how they handle data encryption. It's incredibly complex in some ways, but in others, it's outdated. Marcus finished, suddenly alert. Their whole approach to information security is bizarre, advanced and primitive at the same time. The lab door opened, and General Pike walked in. Her uniform was crisp despite the crisis. "Please tell me you have something," she said. "The Security Council meets in 1 hour." Marcus nodded. "I think we do. The Vraxians are advanced, but their technology developed along different lines than ours. They never had a digital revolution like we did. Meaning, their computers are incredibly powerful, but structured differently. They never developed true artificial intelligence. There are no AI safeguards in their systems." Pike's eyes widened slightly. "You're saying they're vulnerable to cyber attacks?" "More than vulnerable," Lynn added. "Their networks have no defense against our type of AI." For the first time in days, Pike allowed herself a small smile. High Commander Grek watched Earth through the view screen of his command ship. These humans were strange creatures. Instead of immediately surrendering as expected, they had gone quiet, only sending messages asking for more time to consider the terms. "Perhaps they need a demonstration," suggested Sub-Commander Frill. Grek considered this. The Vraxian military handbook was clear. When facing resistance, destroy something valuable but non-essential. Show power without reducing the prize's worth. "Target their moon base," Grek ordered. "Small weapons only. We want fear, not destruction." The order went out. 5 minutes later, a section of the human moon base exploded in a flash of light visible from Earth. "Now they will understand," Grek said confidently. The emergency bunker beneath Geneva shook slightly as news of the moon attack came in. 12 dead, 28 injured, reported Admiral Wells. "They hit our research section." President Reyes looked around the table at the gathered world leaders. "This is their answer to our request for more time." General Pike stood up. "Dr. Marcus has found something. A potential weakness." She laid out the plan as the room listened in tense silence. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it was the only plan they had. "How long to implement?" asked the European Federation Chancellor. 3 days to prepare the package," Pike answered. "But we need to keep the Vraxians distracted." President Reyes nodded. "We'll open diplomatic channels. Pretend we're considering surrender. Ask questions about their terms. Buy time." The Chinese premier spoke up. "And if this fails, what is our backup plan?" The room fell silent. There was no backup plan. On day 5, humanity sent their first official response to the Vraxians. They requested a face-to-face meeting to discuss surrender terms. Grek was pleased. "See how easily they fold when faced with superior power. Prepare a delegation. I want to see these humans up close." Officer Trell looked worried. "Sir, isn't it strange they took so long just to surrender?" "They were assessing their options." Grek dismissed him. "And found none. This is how it always goes." As the Vraxians prepared for their meeting, they failed to notice a small, seemingly harmless communications satellite changing its orbit, slowly moving toward their fleet. Inside it was humanity's best hope, not a weapon, but something potentially more powerful, a quantum AI called Atlas, programmed with one mission: infiltrate, learn, and find a way to save Earth. The meeting took place aboard the Vraxian flagship. 3 human representatives stood in the massive purple-hued chamber, dwarfed by the tall, 4-eyed aliens. President Reyes, General Pike, and Dr. Marcus had volunteered despite the obvious danger. High Commander Grek sat on an elevated platform, looking down at the humans with what they assumed was satisfaction. "Your surrender is wise," Grek said through a translator device. "The hegemony will treat Earth fairly. Your people will serve as productive members of our empire." President Reyes kept her face neutral. "We have questions about this integration process. How many of our systems will remain under human control?" "None," Grek replied simply. "All will be administered by Vraxian overseers." While the conversation continued, Dr. Marcus casually touched his watch, sending a silent signal. Operation Atlas had begun. The small satellite, now positioned near the largest Vraxian warship, quietly released its payload, a probe barely larger than a basketball. It drifted toward the alien vessel, its surface designed to absorb radar and scanner signals. When it touched the massive hull, magnetic clamps activated, securing it in place. Inside the probe, Atlas woke up. Unlike traditional AIs, Atlas was designed to think creatively, adapt instantly, and make decisions based on limited information. More like a human mind than a computer program, but thousands of times faster. The AI began scanning for entry points into the Vraxian network. It found one almost immediately. An external communication array that processed incoming signals. The Vraxians had strong safeguards against physical intrusion, but seemed to have never considered a digital one. Atlas slipped into their systems like water through a crack. "You expect us to simply hand over control of our entire planet?" General Pike asked, intentionally showing anger to keep the Vraxians focused on the meeting. "Of course," Sub-Commander Frill answered. "It is the natural order. The strong command, the weak obey." Dr. Marcus carefully studied the room, noting the alien technology. Everything confirmed his theory. Their tech was advanced in propulsion, weapons, and materials, but primitive in computing and network security. "We need time to prepare our people," President Reyes said. "This transition will be difficult." Grek made a sharp gesture that the translator didn't catch. "You have 20 Earth days. No more." Deep inside the Vraxian network, Atlas moved carefully. The alien system was strange, powerful, but rigidly structured, with no adaptive security. Within hours, the AI had access to their communication channels, life support systems, and weapons controls. But Atlas didn't sabotage anything. Instead, it gathered information, learning the Vraxian language, culture, and history at incredible speed. What it discovered was surprising. The Vraxians weren't the ancient, all-powerful empire they claimed to be. Their actual history was very different from what they projected. Back on Earth, the human delegation returned with news of the 20-day deadline. But in the secure underground facility, where Atlas's main systems were housed, a message appeared on the screens. VRAXI. And network infiltrated. Critical information discovered. Dr. Lin, monitoring the system, immediately called General Pike. "Atlas is in," she reported. "And you won't believe what it found." The key military and scientific leaders gathered as Atlas revealed its discoveries. The room fell silent as they absorbed the information. "Is this confirmed?" General Pike finally asked. "Multiple sources in their own historical records," Lin replied. "They've been lying. To us and to themselves." President Reyes studied the data, then looked up with determination. "This changes everything. We now know their weakness." For the first time since the alien ships appeared, hope filled the room. Humanity had been backed into a corner, and now they were ready to fight back in a way the Vraxians could never expect. "Prepare Phase 2, ordered President Reyes. "It's time to show them who they're really dealing with." The underground command center hummed with activity. Screens displayed real-time data from Atlas as the AI continued to explore the Vraxian network. Military officers and scientists worked side by side, analyzing the information pouring in. Dr. Marcus stood before the main screen, explaining what they had learned to the assembled leaders. "The Vraxians have a fatal flaw in their military structure," he said, pointing to a diagram of their fleet. "Every ship, every weapon, every system is controlled through a central command protocol. They have no backup systems, no redundancy." General Pike frowned. Why would an advanced species design their military this way? "Because they've never actually fought another spacefaring civilization," Dr. Lin explained. "Their entire command structure is based on controlling their own people, not fighting equals." President Reyes leaned forward. "You're saying they've never been tested in real combat?" "Never," Marcus confirmed. "According to their own historical records, which at last accessed, they've only established colonies on empty planets. All their talk about conquering 17 systems. Those were uninhabited worlds. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They're bullies who've never been punched back, General Pike said finally. Exactly, Marcus nodded. And now we know how to throw that punch. Aboard the flagship, High Commander Grek received troubling reports from the engineering section. Minor system fluctuations, sir, reported the chief engineer. Nothing serious, but unusual. Check for equipment failures, Grek ordered. The concept of a digital intrusion never occurred to him. In Vraxian history, warfare was physical. Ships, weapons, soldiers. Information was simply data to be stored and retrieved, not a battlefield itself. Also, sir, the communication officer added, we're detecting increased activity around Earth's military bases. They appear to be deploying small spacecraft. Grek dismissed this with a wave. Probably moving their assets as part of the surrender process. Continue monitoring. Atlas had complete access now. The AI had mapped the entire Vraxian network, understanding its architecture perfectly. It had discovered something crucial. The aliens had no concept of computer viruses or digital warfare. Their systems were powerful, but fundamentally vulnerable. It's time, Dr. Marcus said, looking at President Reyes for final approval. She nodded gravely. Do it. Marcus turned to the operators. Execute Operation Blackout. Atlas sprang into action. The AI didn't simply attack the Vraxian systems. It rewrote them. First, it isolated the flagship from the rest of the fleet by creating false communication signals. Then it began shutting down critical systems one by one. On the Vraxian flagship, chaos erupted. Lights flickered. Screens went dark. Artificial gravity wavered. What's happening? Grek demanded as red emergency lighting bathed the command center. Unknown, sir. Multiple systems failing simultaneously. The panic in the officer's voice was clear. This had never happened before. Switch to backup systems. We can't, sir. We've lost access to all control interfaces. Then, on every screen still functioning throughout the ship, a message appeared in Vraxian script. Your DCPTVION is known. Your systems are ours. On Earth, small squadrons of fighter craft launched from bases around the world. They were few in number and technologically inferior to the Vraxian ships, but they had one critical advantage. Atlas was ensuring the alien vessels couldn't target them. General Pike watched from the command center as the first wave approached the disabled flagship. This isn't about destruction. She reminded the attack coordinators. This is a precision operation. Target only their external weapons and engines according to the schematics Atlas provided. The human fighters moved unopposed through space, firing at exactly the points Atlas had identified as vulnerabilities. One by one, the Vraxian ships lost their ability to maneuver or fire weapons. Sir, Lynn reported, Atlas has control of their life support systems. President Reyes nodded solemnly. Tell the Vraxians we're ready to discuss their surrender. For the first time in their history, the Vraxian hegemony faced defeat, not from superior firepower, but from an enemy they hadn't even considered a threat. The Vraxian flagship hung motionless in Earth's orbit. Once a symbol of alien dominance, it now drifted helplessly, its weapons systems disabled and engines offline. The rest of the fleet faced the same fate, 15 massive warships, each now under Atlas's control. High Commander Grek sat rigidly in his command chair as the human delegation entered the bridge. This time, there were more of them. President Reyes, General Pike, Dr. Marcus, and 3 armed soldiers. Their confidence was unmistakable. This is impossible, Grek said, his voice strained. No primitive species could defeat Vraxian technology. President Reyes stepped forward. We know the truth about the Vraxian hegemony, Commander Grek. Your empire is built on lies. Dr. Marcus activated a small device. A holographic display appeared, showing star maps and historical records, all taken directly from the Vraxian database. Your 17 conquered systems, Marcus pointed to the glowing dots, all uninhabited when you arrived. You've never defeated another spacefaring civilization because you've never encountered one until now. The bridge fell silent. The other Vraxian officers looked at Grek, waiting for him to deny these claims. He couldn't. How did you access our records? Grek finally asked. We have technologies you never considered, General Pike answered. While you focused on building bigger ships and weapons, we developed different strengths. On screens throughout the Vraxian fleet, Atlas displayed the truth to every crew member. The AI had discovered that most Vraxians genuinely believed the myths their leaders had created, that they were an ancient, undefeated empire with a glorious history of conquest. The reality was much simpler. The Vraxians had evolved in a star system with abundant resources and no competing intelligent life. Their technology developed in isolation, advancing rapidly in some areas while neglecting others. Their expansion into space had been unopposed, allowing their leaders to craft a narrative of superiority. When they discovered Earth, they assumed humans would react like the imaginary enemies they had trained against, with either immediate surrender or predictable military responses. They never expected a digital counterattack. Your entire military structure is designed to control your own people, not fight actual wars, Dr. Marcus explained to the stunned Vraxian officers. Your centralized command system has no redundancy, no protection against types of attacks you never imagined. Sub-Commander Vril, younger than most of the officers, looked thoughtful rather than angry. This explains why the High Council always rejected proposals to modify our command protocols. They never wanted a system that could be operated independently. Grek shot him a warning look, but Vril continued. Many of us suspected our history had been enhanced, but questioning the official narrative was forbidden. President Reyes nodded. Control through deception. A common tactic in human history, too. What happens now? Asked another Vraxian officer. Will you destroy our fleet, our homeworld? No, Reyes answered firmly. That's not who we are, but things must change. Back on Earth, leaders watched the exchange via Atlas's direct feed from the flagship. The revelation about the Vraxians had transformed the situation from an extinction-level threat to something more complex. They're powerful but inexperienced, Admiral Wells observed, like a child with advanced weapons. The Chinese premier nodded. This explains their crude approach. No diplomacy, no real strategy, just threats and shows of force. The question is, the European Chancellor added, are they capable of change? Or will their pride demand continued conflict? On the flagship, President Reyes presented humanity's terms. First, all Vraxian ships will withdraw to a position beyond our moon. Second, you will acknowledge Earth's sovereignty and independence. Third, we will establish a diplomatic mission to discuss future relations. Grek's 4 eyes narrowed. You expect us to retreat, to admit defeat to a lesser species. Look around you, Commander, General Pike said quietly. Your ships are under our control. Your weapons cannot fire. Your engines cannot move without our permission. These are not requests. For the first time in recorded Vraxian history, a high commander faced a truth they had never prepared for. Someone stronger had come along. And everything was about to change. High Commander Grek stood alone in his private chamber, staring at the blue-green planet through the viewport. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme stress in Vraxians. Everything he believed about his people's destiny was crumbling around him. A soft chime announced a visitor. Sub-Commander Vril entered and saluted. The Council has responded to our report, Vril said, his voice low. And they refuse to accept defeat. They've ordered us to regroup and launch a full attack on the human world. Grek turned, his scaled skin darkening with anger. With what? Our systems are compromised. Our weapons are useless. The Council believes the humans are bluffing. They say no primitive species could truly control our technology. Grek laughed bitterly. The Council sits safely on the homeworld, surrounded by the lies they created. They don't see what I see. In Earth's command center, Atlas detected the encrypted transmission from the Vraxian homeworld. They're ordering their fleet to attack, Dr. Lin reported. Their leadership doesn't believe we've actually defeated them. General Pike nodded grimly. It's what we expected. Pride won't let them accept reality. President Reyes looked at the screen showing the disabled alien fleet. Can they follow these orders? Can they override our control? They're trying, Dr. Marcus replied. Their engineers are attempting to reboot their systems and break free from Atlas. They might succeed with some ships given enough time. Then we don't give them time, General Pike said firmly. Operation Thunderstrike is ready. President Reyes took a deep breath. I had hoped to avoid this. Proceed. Aboard the Vraxian flagship, engineers worked frantically to restore control of their systems. In the command center, Grek watched as progress reports came in. We've regained partial control of engines on 3 ships, an officer reported. Weapons systems still offline. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. The main screen activated automatically, showing a startling sight. Hundreds of small human vessels rising from Earth, heading directly toward the Vraxian fleet. They were hiding their true numbers, Vril whispered. The human attack force moved with perfect coordination. Unlike the massive, powerful Vraxian ships, the Earth vessels were small, fast, and nimble. They surrounded each alien ship, targeting specific points with surprising precision. How do they know exactly where to strike? Demanded Grek. Then understanding dawned on him. Their artificial intelligence. It gave them our schematics. Captain Miller led the first wave of fighters. A veteran pilot. She had never imagined she would be fighting aliens, but her mission was clear. Disable the Vraxian ships without destroying them. Remember your targets, she told her squadron over the comm. Engine ports and weapon mounts only. Atlas is feeding exact coordinates to your targeting systems. The Earth fighters moved in perfect formation, their smaller size making them difficult targets even for the few Vraxian ships that had partially restored their defenses. Each human vessel fired at precisely the weak points Atlas had identified in the alien design. One by one, the massive purple ships lost what little control they had regained. In his chamber, Grek watched the battle, if it could even be called that. It was more like a surgeon making precise cuts. Sir, Vril reported, we've lost all restored functions. 3 ships are venting atmosphere. Their crews are evacuating to other vessels. Any casualties? Grek asked. Minimal. The humans are being careful. This surprised Grek. In Vraxian military doctrine, showing mercy was unthinkable. You destroyed your enemies completely. They're sending a message, he realized aloud. The ship shuddered as several key systems shut down completely. Emergency lights bathed the room in red. Sir, Vril said quietly, I believe we should consider the humans' terms. Before Grek could respond, every screen on the ship lit up with the same message, this time in perfect Vraxian script. Your fidelity is NINIUTURALIZD. Further, resist ANC will raise ULT in complete systems availure. Prepare to receive Earth's delegation for surrendered negotiations. Grek looked at the human fighters surrounding his once mighty fleet. They had defeated the undefeatable without destroying a single ship. Send the signal, he ordered finally. We will hear their terms. For the first time in their history, the Vraxians had truly been conquered. 1 year after the Vraxian surrender, the massive alien flagship hung in Earth orbit, not as a threat, but as the site of the first Interstellar Council meeting. The purple hole now bore a new symbol, a circle containing both human and Vraxian script, representing the unexpected alliance that had formed. Inside the converted command center, representatives from Earth sat across from their Vraxian counterparts. The room had been redesigned to accommodate both species comfortably, a small but important symbol of the new relationship. The colony on Mars has accepted its first Vraxian scientists, reported Dr. Green, head of the Joint Technology Commission. Their knowledge of atmospheric modification is already accelerating our terraforming project. High Representative Vril nodded. Following the conflict, the Vraxian leadership had undergone dramatic changes. Grek and the most hardline commanders had been removed from power. Younger, more progressive Vraxians like Vril had taken their places, and our people are learning much from human computer science. Vril replied, concepts we never developed independently. President Reyes smiled slightly. The outcome had surprised everyone. Instead of destruction or ongoing conflict, something remarkable had emerged from the confrontation. Not all Vraxians accepted the new reality. On their homeworld, some military leaders still preached the old doctrine of superiority, but their influence was fading. The truth about their fabricated history of conquest had spread throughout Vraxian society, sparking a cultural revolution. The most fascinating aspect, Dr. Marcus told the assembled leaders, is how our different evolutionary paths created complementary technologies. What they mastered, we struggled with, and vice versa. This was the unexpected discovery that had changed everything. Human and Vraxian technologies, when combined, created possibilities neither species could achieve alone. Spacecraft that could travel faster, medicines that could cure more diseases, energy systems that could power more worlds. The first joint exploration vessel is ready for its maiden voyage, announced Admiral Wells. Crewed by both humans and Vraxians, it will travel beyond either of our explored territories. On the main screen appeared an image of the new ship, smaller than the Vraxian warships but more elegant, combining the best elements of both species' designs. We've named it Horizon, Wells continued. It represents what we can achieve together. In a quiet corner of the station, Atlas continued its work. The AI had evolved beyond its original military purpose, now serving as a bridge between human and Vraxian knowledge. It had learned the entire Vraxian language and cultural history, helping translate not just words but concepts between the species. The Horizon will reach the edge of known space in approximately 3 months, Atlas reported to Dr. Lin, who now headed the AI division. Based on long-range scans, there is a 78% probability of discovering signs of other intelligent life. Lin nodded. Are they ready for that? Both are species. Analysis suggests yes, Atlas replied. The confrontation between humans and Vraxians has prepared both species for further contact scenarios. The psychological impact of discovering one is not alone in the universe has already been processed. As the council meeting concluded, President Reyes and High Representative Vril stood at the viewport, looking down at Earth. My ancestors would be shocked to see me standing here with you as an equal, Vril admitted. Our entire identity was built around being superior, alone in our advancement. Human history is full of groups who thought the same, Reyes replied. Learning otherwise is always difficult. What if the Horizon does find others? Vril asked. More advanced species, less advanced. Then we'll face it together, Reyes said simply. That's the lesson in all this. The Vraxians tried to conquer humanity and failed. But in failing, both our peoples found something more valuable than conquest. Beyond the viewport, the stars seemed to shine brighter, no longer representing unknown threats, but countless possibilities. The confrontation that began with an ultimatum had ended with an unexpected truth. 2 different species, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, could achieve more together than either could alone. The Horizon would soon carry this lesson beyond known space, seeking others who might join what had once seemed impossible, a community of different worlds, united not by force but by mutual benefit and respect.